So I was thinking about this problem that Spain has in Ceuta, this migrant invasion from Morocco. And a lot of people in the alternative media, the podcast world, have been saying, no, this was a plan of Israel and the United States. It's tensions over the Strait of Gibraltar. It's tensions over Spain staying in NATO. It's tensions over Spain's support for the Palestinian solidarity movement. But I just want to take a little aside because in the reporting about the conflict between Morocco and Spain, and let's be clear, Spain has two enclaves on the continent, on the African continent. One is Ceuta, and I forget the name of the other one. But there's been a push by the United States and by Israel, admittedly, by the United States and Israel, to return those small cities back to Morocco, even though they have hundreds of years being in Spain, speak Spanish there. But the son of Benjamin Netanyahu, about a year or so ago, he tweeted out that he X'd out that Israel would stop funding NGOs, non-governmental organizations, in Spain and in Morocco, trying to cede these territories and give them back to Morocco. If Spain would agree to, as he put it, to stop funding NGOs trying to cede the West Bank and Gaza, the Palestinians. In other words, and this is, I think, so typical and why there's always going to be a subtext of ethnic cleansing just below the surface of Israeli policy, but they don't come out and say it. Let me repeat what Benjamin Netanyahu's son published a year or so ago. He said that Israel would agree to stop funding groups in Morocco and Spain that advocate for turning over Ceuta and the other enclave back to Morocco. They would stop funding those organizations. Israel would stop funding those organizations in Morocco and Spain. If Spain agreed to stop funding NGOs in Israel to cede Judea and Samaria, so that Israel have to give away Judea and Samaria. Well, they're using Judea and Samaria now instead of talking about Gaza and the West Bank, because they think that using that terminology will have play with American evangelicals, and sadly, it probably does. In fact, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, actually, I don't know if the law passed, he was trying to pass a law that would actually make it a requirement in all legal documents to refer to the West Bank and Gaza as Judea and Samaria. And with stiff penalties, I think even probably even on social media, you'd be subject to censorship if you don't use these new politically correct terms. But what's different about the Spanish example that the Netanyahu government is talking about and the Israel example? What's different is in Ceuta and the other Spanish enclave, I don't remember the name, they're just cities on the Moroccan side. There aren't Moroccans living there. The people living there are Spanish. Whereas in the examples that Netanyahu's son gave of Gaza and the West Bank, which he calls Judea and Samaria, the Palestinians are living there. So if you say that now they're saying they're quite part of allowed, they're saying that actually those are part of Israel proper, even though Israel's borders have never been defined. They have to go back to Old Testament times. Whereas Spain doesn't go back to Old Testament times. They go back a few centuries. These cities are part of Spain. But there's not Moroccans living there. See, the question about what is Israel's territory, what land does Israel have sovereign right over? That can't be separated with what to do with the Palestinians. So if we accept, I'm fine saying that Gaza and the West Bank are part of Israel. We've actually argued for a one-state solution with democracy and human rights for all, equal rights for all, like Mondani said. One state with equal rights for all. But if you say that, okay, the West Bank and Gaza are part of Israel, as now they're saying, what do you do with the people there? You have to ethnically cleanse them. You have to either kill them or drive them out or live in a permanent apartheid state. So it's very different from the situation in Morocco. Where the people that are living in these places are Spanish. You don't have to. So Israel wants this cake and they want to be able to eat it too. Because one moment they're arguing that they're occupied territories. You say, okay, well, let's deal with what this means politically. But then they say, no, they're part of Israel. I guess part of Israel now includes part of Syria, southern Lebanon. In fact, Israel is spraying so much glyphosate and Roundup on those farm fields in southern Lebanon that they will never be able to have crops ever again. But let's just talk about the West Bank and Gaza. You can argue that from 2,000, 3,000 years ago, this was part of Israel. Okay, fine. What are you going to do with the people that are there? See, to compare it with these cities in northern Morocco that are part of Spain is ludicrous because recognizing or not recognizing it's as part of one country or the other, it doesn't involve any ethnic cleansing. Or maybe it does, because let's say tomorrow NATO and Israel and Morocco get their way, and those two Spanish enclaves return to Morocco. The Spanish people that are living there, they're not gonna stay there. They're gonna get out. And every migrant in the world is still going to come to Ceuta because that's the quickest place to catch a boat to the Spanish mainland. So this analogy is really, it's really far-fetched, and it's sad that people buy it.